Have you ever wondered why, in ancient legends, blacksmiths were feared and revered as if they were sorcerers? Imagine an ordinary man who, through fire and strength, transforms worthless stones into deadly weapons and precious jewels. Sounds like magic, doesn't it? In the shadows of old forges, where glowing metal danced among the flames, the line between craftsmanship and witchcraft was razor thin. Blacksmiths weren't just artisans. They were seen as masters of hidden knowledge, capable of bending nature itself to their will. Today, we're going to uncover one of the greatest enigmas of ancient civilizations. Were blacksmiths merely metalworkers, or true magicians who commanded the spirits of the earth? The answer might just change the way you see the origins of human technology. Deep within the Nordic forests, blacksmiths were known as dvergr, mystical dwarves who forged Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. Imagine these beings, smaller than ordinary men, yet able to bend metal like clay, crafting weapons even the gods couldn't break. But this isn't an isolated myth. Across ancient cultures, we find the same mysterious pattern. The blacksmith as a supernatural figure. In West Africa, the Dogon blacksmiths were considered so powerful they had to live apart from the rest of the community. Under the starry skies of Mali, shrouded in smoke and secrecy, they transformed stone into metal to the rhythm of ancestral chants. Their furnaces weren't just structures. They were altars where metal would die and be reborn in a new form. Each strike of the hammer didn't just shape metal. It echoed into the spiritual realms, invoking Niyama, the vital force present in all things. What few people realize is that these beliefs weren't empty superstition. Mircea Eliade, in his work The Forge and the Crucible, uncovered something fascinating. For many of these cultures, metallurgy was a deliberate reenactment of cosmic creation. Ore was extracted like an embryo from Mother Earth. The furnace represented a new womb in which this embryo would be gestated. And the blacksmith? He was the midwife of this supernatural birth, accelerating a process that, in nature, would take millennia. Think about it. When a medieval blacksmith extracted iron from ore, he was performing a transformation that seemed impossible. From dull, worthless stones emerged a bright, powerful metal. How could such a thing be explained without invoking the supernatural? While kings waged wars over gold, the blacksmith was turning stone into something far more valuable. And no one knew how. In many ancient languages, the words for blacksmith and shaman share common roots. In the Ossetian language, Kurtalagan refers both to a mythical blacksmith and to a form of shamanic power. Curious, isn't it? As if our ancestors understood that both dealt with invisible forces. In Siberia, it was believed that blacksmiths and shamans received their gifts from the same spirits. While shamans spoke with spirits, blacksmiths spoke with fire, and the fire always answered. The Hittites, one of the most advanced civilizations of the Bronze Age, practiced elaborate rituals before building a new forge. Picture the scene: a Hittite blacksmith, drenched in sweat, chanting under the watchful gaze of temple priests, cuneiform. Tablets describe a specific incantation. When the furnace breathes for the first time, offer wine to the god Hasamili, so that the metal may flow like water. They weren't just building a workshop. They were creating a portal between worlds, a sacred space where metals could be transformed through precise enchantments. What makes this story even more intriguing is that blacksmiths guarded their knowledge with intense secrecy. Their techniques were passed down only to chosen apprentices after years of trials. In medieval European guilds, apprentices swore on the Bible never to reveal the mysteries of the forge. What they were protecting wasn't just metallurgy. It was something closer to alchemy, a set of hidden formulas that allowed them to control the elements. But there was a darker side to this legacy. In many cultures, blacksmiths were feared and kept at the edges of society. In Central Africa, they were forbidden from touching newborns or participating in certain harvest rituals. Why? Because their constant contact with transformative fire made them contaminated, too powerful to freely mingle with ordinary people. Imagine living like that. Respected for your skill, but feared for your power. A magician among mortals. And what if these rituals hid a secret even the gods feared to reveal? A knowledge so powerful, it had to be disguised as superstition, to keep it from falling into the wrong hands. Here's the twist that few modern historians fully grasp. Ancient blacksmiths lived simultaneously in two worlds, the material and the symbolic. To reduce their craft to mere proto-science is to miss the deepest essence of their wisdom. When a medieval blacksmith blew air over molten metal and recited specific words, he wasn't just controlling oxygen flow, he was participating in an act of creation that echoed the very birth of the cosmos. As Mircea Eliade revealed in his studies, for the Homo religiosus, every technical action was also a symbolic one. The blacksmith wasn't pretending to invoke spirits as a cover for technical knowledge. He truly inhabited a universe where matter and spirit were inseparable. Picture yourself in the dim glow of an ancient African forge. The glowing metal is not just a physical chemical phenomenon. It's a visible manifestation of a universal life force. Each strike of the hammer resonates not only in the metal, but also across the invisible fabric of reality. To the blacksmith, there was no contradiction between technical knowledge and mystical experience. They were two aspects of the same transformative process. What we now uncover through modern metallographic analysis of Viking swords is astonishing. They reveal carbon patterns that required advanced understanding. But what's truly extraordinary is not that these craftsmen anticipated modern science. It's that they achieved such results through an integrative mindset that our fragmented modern thinking can barely comprehend. In 1982, archaeologists uncovered a 3rd century forge in Sri Lanka with advanced ventilation systems. But what local records reveal is equally profound. The blacksmiths were initiated into specific spiritual traditions, and the construction of the forge followed precise cosmological principles. Its orientation, materials, and moment of inauguration all reflected a worldview in which technical and symbolic dimensions were inseparable. What's most unsettling for our modern mindset is this. Much of that knowledge was lost not only as technique, but as whole modes of perception. The Damascus blade, with its unique patterns, resists modern reproduction, not just because of technical gaps, but because we lost the symbolic spiritual context in which it was forged. The Damascus blacksmith didn't just know how to forge, he knew how to be in a way that integrated consciousness and matter. Medieval alchemical texts referred to blacksmiths as guardians of the secret fire, a metaphor that goes far beyond the technical. The physical flame was inseparable from the inner transformative fire. True alchemy wasn't just about transmuting metals. It was about transmuting consciousness, including that of the artisan himself. As the alchemist Zosimos wrote, "Transform yourself from mortal beast into immortal spirit, and so return to your root." And here lies the most intriguing thread in this whole story. Across many cultures, with no contact between them, we find the same insight, that the blacksmith had to access altered states of consciousness, not as superstition, not as a technical trick, but as a recognition that some realities can only be perceived when the mind transcends its ordinary limitations. What if the real lost secret wasn't just about metal, but about the ability to inhabit both the material and symbolic realms at once? To live a unified experience of reality that our fragmented modern worldview can barely imagine? So, what remains of this ancient enigma? Perhaps the deepest lesson is this. The divide between science and spirituality, between technique and symbolism, is a modern illusion, one that blinds us to the true nature of ancient knowledge. Blacksmiths show us there is a third path, one beyond scientific materialism and superstition, a path of authentic symbolic knowledge, where the manipulation of matter and the transformation of consciousness are not separate, but part of the same process. As Carl Jung once observed, symbols are not mere representations. They are bridges to dimensions of reality that analytical intellect alone cannot reach. When we look at modern forges, filled with industrial processes and mathematical precision, we may be missing something essential. The transformation of metal has always been, and still can be, an act that unites matter and meaning, technique, and awareness. The ancient blacksmith never separated how to do from why to do, or from who is doing. It was an integrated experience where the artisan, the process, and the cosmos were in constant dialogue. The legacy of these masters of transformation still lives on, not only in the tools we use, but in the symbols that continue to echo through our collective unconscious. The forge, the hammer, the transmutation of metal, these aren't just technical objects. They are archetypes that still shape how we understand both personal and collective transformation. As Mircea Eliade wrote, "Modern man still preserves deep within himself the echo of forgotten behaviors." And what if the true treasure of the ancient blacksmiths wasn't just technical knowledge, but their ability to inhabit a universe where matter and spirit, technique and symbol, science and art were all facets of the same reality? That is, the true philosopher's stone. Not a mystical object or a chemical formula, but an integrated way of being and knowing that transcends our fragmented modern categories. So, next time you look at a piece of metal, try not to see it just as a product of physical and chemical processes, but as the visible expression of a tradition that united the seen and the unseen, the tangible and the symbolic. In that integrated perspective, perhaps we can begin to recover something of the wisdom the ancient blacksmiths infused into every strike of the hammer. What other forms of integral knowledge from the past remain misunderstood, simply because we insist on dividing them into science and mysticism? What other ancient traditions await a form of understanding that honors both their technical mastery and their symbolic depth? Maybe the true lesson of the blacksmith is this: the most profound knowledge emerges when we recognize that reality is both material and symbolic, technical and spiritual. Stay with us here on Mystery Hunter as we continue to explore ancient traditions in their full integrity, beyond the limits of reductionist interpretations. If you value these journeys that honor both the material and symbolic dimensions of human history, join our investigation, subscribe to the channel, and help us recover ancestral wisdom in all its original depth.